23. April. Dearest Suzie, I finally got a letter from you late last night. We got a batch of mail in and I had one letter. I was sorry to hear about Uncle Otto. Tell them that for me, will you? I know Dad thought an awful lot of him. I hope this letter finds you and the boys doing okay. Does Brian still miss his dad? How did Billy do in his school play? I guess they have had it by now. We were called out on an alert this morning. The VC had killed one American and wounded two others. Of course, all the VC had gone time we got out there, but we spent all day looking for them anyway. We have another big award ceremony tomorrow morning. I will get 4 oak leaf clusters to my air medal. Big deal. I would trade all of them for a plane ticket home. Oh well. Tomorrow we have 5 months to wait. I miss you all very much. I love you more every day, if that is possible. All my love. Bill. If Poppy's letter from April 23rd feels weary, more focused on counting down months than tallying medals, it's worth considering what has happened beyond his immediate world in those same days. As he prepared to receive 4 more oak leaf clusters for his air medal, some of the most powerful political and military minds in the U.S. government were gathered in Honolulu, trying to make sense of the conflict's future. The decisions they made that week would change everything, even if Poppy couldn't see it yet. On April 20th, Ambassador Maxwell Taylor proposed a shift in military strategy, one that was quickly adopted by President Johnson and supported by top brass like Robert McNamara, William Bundy, and General Westmoreland. The plan was known as the enclave strategy. The idea was to contain U.S. ground operations within a 50-mile radius of strategic coastal cities and air bases, leaving the rest of the countryside, the rural, deeply contested areas, to South Vietnamese forces. It was a compromise, meant to limit American exposure while still holding key territory. But the reality on the ground didn't cooperate. Viet Cong forces didn't stay put. The war didn't follow neat boundaries, and the ARVN, already struggling, couldn't hold the lines on their own. The enclave strategy began to unravel almost immediately. By June, Taylor had resigned, and the U.S. shifted again, this time embracing the much more aggressive search and destroy strategy that would come to define the next phase of the war. Then, just 2 days later, McNamara stirred international outrage during an off-the-record briefing with journalists. When pressed about the limits of American escalation, he refused to rule out the use of nuclear weapons in Vietnam. His exact words weren't printed, that was the agreement, but New York Times reporter Tom Wicker paraphrased the comments. If conventional bombing couldn't destroy a target, they'd keep escalating. 100 planes, then 200. Nuclear weapons, McNamara said, weren't off the table. They were simply the last option in a long list. The backlash came fast. In a speech at the United Nations, Soviet Ambassador Nikolai Fedorenko blasted the United States for what he called its willingness to once again consider nuclear war on an Asian population. The ghost of Hiroshima hung heavy over the rhetoric. Indelible shame, Fedorenko warned, would follow another atomic strike. The use of atomic weapons in World War II, after all, occurred only 20 years before these comments. And on April 23rd, the same day Poppy wrote that he'd trade all his medals for a plane ticket, Ambassador Taylor sent a report back to Washington. South Vietnamese Prime Minister Phan Huy Quat, he wrote, was hesitant about accepting even more American troops. He worried, perhaps rightly, that the presence of too many foreign soldiers would turn public opinion further against the South's fragile government. And still, the buildup continued. At this point, there were about 33,000 American personnel in Vietnam. 20,000 more were already en route. All of this happened while Poppy was fixing up his operations office, flying out on a fruitless search for the VC, and thinking about how much he missed his boys. He doesn't mention McNamara. He doesn't mention Taylor. He just says that he was 5 months from going home, and that he'd trade every last ribbon on his chest if it meant getting there sooner. The photo I chose for today shows a building on the ocean. There are cars, jeeps, parked in front of it. Behind them, the land juts out into the ocean. The water in the foreground is bashing up against rocks. Based on similar photos taken by Poppy, it could be Vietnam, or it could be Hawaii. Who knows? I'm Alex Lowy, and I hope you have enjoyed listening to this episode of Dearest Suzie, and receiving messages from the past that my Popi wrote exactly 60 years ago. I sincerely appreciate your time and interest. Please consider following the podcast on your preferred platform, and if you're enjoying it, I kindly ask that you take the time to rate the show and leave a review. Also, please follow the project on YouTube, X, and Instagram. All likes, comments, shares, and reviews will help grow the reach of this story. The links for these things should be in the description of this episode. Please feel free to email me at dearestsuziepodcast@gmail.com if you have anything you'd like to say. I'd love to chat or to hear about your stories as well. Thank you for listening, and God bless.